Hello everyone. A very good day to all. Welcome back to my channel, Wikipedia AI. Today we'll be talking about an interesting topic. It's going to be about retrieval augmented generation. Now, before trying to understand what a RAG is, let's try to understand basically what a large language model is. So, LLM, a large language model, it's basically a machine learning model. It's it's a machine learning model, and inside machine learning model it's a deep neural network. Deep neural network. So it's basically a neural network. Large language model is a neural network. It's basically built to generate the text. The main functionality of a large language model is to generate text or images or audio video based on the trained data. So a large language model, it's a machine learning model. It's basically trained on large amount of freely available text data, images and audio and video, so that it trains itself and it will be capable of generating the required content. So that is the basic functionality of a large language model. Now, if large language model by itself doesn't understand raw text, images and data. So a large language, you have a lot of you know data available in the internet, right? Text, images and videos, audio. So a lot of data is available on the internet. So this large language model itself is not capable of understanding this text, images, audio and video. So what does it require? So it requires basically a large language model is basically trained on mathematics. So your data is converted to some kind of a format in form of some numbers, and that is being trained used for training the large language model. So we'll discuss how this happens in a separate video, because this itself is a huge topic. But let's try to understand that a large language model itself is not capable of understanding the raw data available in the binary format, whether it's text, images or videos. It cannot directly read those binaries and understand it. So all this data should be converted into some kind of a mathematical format, some kind of format that needs to be understood by the large language model to train itself. So this this generally a vector, a multi-dimensional vector is used to represent all this data. So let's say you have some text input, a text document, or you know an image. So they are generally in binary format. They are not into they are not um, in a human readable format. So if you open some image, a text file can be read by the human beings, but image or audio or video, you cannot. If you open that file using some editor, you won't be able to understand it. So Same is the case with large language model. A large language model by itself cannot understand that binary stuff. So what should be done? So it has to be converted into some different format, and that is called as a vector embedding. So it can have a lot of dimensions, but for example, let's take a 3-dimensional or a 4-dimensional vector, for example. So this is so I am representing this text image as some kind of now this text data is converted as it's a 3-dimensional vector that holds these uh, values. So this text is converted as 1.5, 2.6, and 3.5. It's a vector of numbers. So now this text representation is equal to this one. Now how this conversion happens, we'll discuss in a different topic. But for now, understand that this this text is represented as this uh, this vector. Now you need a separate model to do this conversion. We also have a lot of open source softwares and models to do this conversion. Now once this data is converted, a large language model is trained on this vector. So it doesn't understand, large language model doesn't understand this binary text, image, or whatever audio. So it only understands this kind of a representation. So a large language model is generally trained on this kind of vector format, and it is pre-trained with the data available in the internet. So that is already fed to it and it is pre-trained. Let's say for example, if you have a Claude, Gemini, Mistral, or Deep Secret, you will be using those ChatGPT. So you will be asking some questions that are generally available in the internet. If these questions falls under the category of the data that it is trained upon, so this large language model will be able to give you an answer. Otherwise it will say I don't know the answer. Let's say you have built some product and you have built some user manual about this product or service you are providing. If you go and ask any large language model about your uh, product, then it won't be able to give it. So it won't be able to give the answer. So no, this to solve this kind of a problem, we have you know uh, what do you call retrieval augmented generation. Now let's say we have an user. So this is a large language model. So when user makes a query, explain me the functionalities of so and so product. So this large language model is not trained on that data. So it will not be able to give any answer to that. Instead of so it will give some a random answer saying I don't know it. Now to solve this problem, we have something called as retrieval augmented generation, where your documents and manuals are your set of documents. Mostly it could be documents, images, or anything else. primarily PDF documents. We mostly will be working with the PDF or some kind of a text content or two that are specific to our products or services. So these documents are converted into the vector format. I explained you a vector format, right? Now these documents are based on the size of the documents. They are broken down into chunks. So if the data is large, they are like broken down into chunks and then converted into these embedding vectors. This is called as embedded vectors. Conversion of now this raw document is converted into embedding vector. So a vector can be of n dimensions, any dimensions. So for example, let's take 3-dimensional vector. So all these chunks or documents, all these documents will be chunked and converted into these vectors and stored in some kind of a vector database. So you have lot of uh, vector database available in the market. So these documents are converted into these embedding vectors and then stored into database, stored into that vector. We have this vector database. All these are stored inside this vector databases. Now when large language model when large language model generates the data, it connects to this vector database and it extracts these weights and combines. Let's say if your document is chunked, then it combines all those data, all those vectors, it retrieves. So retrieval phase. So in a RAG system, we have a phase called as retrieval phase. So where your large language model connects to this vector database and retrieves the information and then generates the response. Retrieval and response generation. So retrieval. What does retrieval mechanism do? It connects to this vector database where your vector embeddings are stored and then generates the response. So this retrieval and response generation is called as RAG system. Now you can also, so in retrieval phase you are going and connecting to the vector database and retrieving those embedded vectors where your documentation is converted and then your response is generated by the large language model. So does a large language model generated gets trained on this new documentation? No, it will not train itself for this new vector database with new uh, uh, documentation. So it stays separate. Every time you ask for the response, every time you ask about this documentation, so it will connect to this vector database and generate the response. So your large language model training is fixed. So it won't it's also called as frozen. So your large language model is frozen. Frozen means the new training data is not used for training the large language model. The existing, it's the training data on which it is trained is it's frozen. So if there is no vector database, it won't be able to generate the answer about this new documentation. So I think this is what is called as RAG process. So to explain simply about this RAG process, right? Let's let's take some data that is okay. Let me ask how many marks I scored in my 10th. See, so this doesn't have details about the marks I scored in the 10th. Now if I upload the document, now I have given it the document. So now it is able to give no. So it says my total marks are 431 out of 400. So earlier when I asked, since it was not trained on my data, it was unable to give the answer. Now I gave it the document. It does that. So I told you, right? It will do this conversion. The documents are converted into vector databases and then vector embedding vectors and then stored into database, and then your large language model will be able to do the retrieval and generate the response for it. So this is a simple case of a retrieval augmented generation. So yeah, I think that's what I wanted to share. Hope you understood uh, what a retrieval augmented generation is. I even showed you a demo how a RAG works. This is all about what a retrieval augmented generation is. Thank you.